Wow, what a lovely, warm welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. And also, there are some folks joining us on the live stream. So welcome to all of you. And I want to say first, also thanks to the folks at Revolution Hall for hosting this gathering. I'm Cheryl Strayed, and I have the great privilege and pleasure and honor of being the moderator this evening. Some of you might know me as a writer, but I'm really here as an Oregonian. And with Minnesota roots, I grew up in Minnesota. AG Ellison and I just had a chat about that. We actually met when I was like 20 and an undergraduate at the University of Minnesota. And I came when they asked me to moderate this town hall. I said yes because I have felt so much emotion about the state of our country and really our world, and been really angry and afraid and sad about a lot of the things that have happened in our community, in our states, and in our nation. I know that I'm speaking for a lot of us in this room, not all of us, but a lot of us in this room when I say that. And I've also felt a lot of despair, but I said yes to this gig because I felt like it was an action, it was something I could do to show up and have this conversation in our community. And also because I think that the wonderful attorneys general on this stage with me tonight, and also several Democratic AGs around the nation, are a bright spot, genuinely have brought good news. Have brought good news in a time of really difficult news and sad news, right? And what's happened is a year ago today, together in coalition, Democratic AGs brought the first lawsuit. It was in response to the Birthright Citizenship Executive Order. And since that time, there are 76 more lawsuits have come. And Oregon is involved in 53 of them. And the way that, yes. Thank you. And, the way these work is a couple of states will be the sort of lead in these cases, and then the others in the coalition join forces. And it's been a great model for the potential for collective action, the necessity for collective action, when there is a shared vision, even when there are differences of opinion. Change can be made. And I think to have that modeled for us, and by these wonderful AGs who I share the stage with, has been a really empowering thing. And we're here tonight to do more empowering things, and that is talk about it all. It's a town hall focused on discussion, questions, testimony, both in the room and those that were submitted online. And these 5 wonderful leaders are going to give us all the information and answers that they can in the time we have. So I'm going to just quickly give you sort of the run of the night, and then I'm going to ask the AGs to introduce themselves to you. We're going to have those introductions, and then we'll have the questions. I'll talk more about the logistics of that. Obviously, there are way more questions than we have time, because we do plan to finish by 8. And then we'll have some closing remarks. And my hope is that we'll all have the wonderful opportunity to listen to each other with respect and compassion and open minds. So without further ado, let me turn it over to our Oregon Attorney General, Dan Rayfield.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Again, my name is Dan Rayfield. What a pleasure. I'm absolutely proud to be an Oregonian. I'm absolutely proud that Oregon has been able to lead with these amazing attorney generals on some of the most important issues going on in our democracy right now. Because make no mistake about it, our democracy is under attack, and that is why we are here tonight. And that is why it is so important to have Democratic attorneys general across this country that are the backstop to protect our rights, to protect the things that we care about, our collective values. And that's why we're here. You think about what's going on in our country right now. We have an attack on our electoral system, where politicians are talking about rigging our elections. It's going on. It's going on in Texas. It's going on in other places. This is the world we're living in right now. You have a federal administration that is politicizing law enforcement. It is absolutely inappropriate. You have a president that is politicizing our judiciary system. And part of the reason they're doing that is because a year ago today, we, as a coalition, filed our very first lawsuit. That's what today marks. And that was less than 24 hours when the president took office and started issuing a ton of unconstitutional and unlawful executive orders. And within 72 hours, we were winning. And I don't think any of us are proud to sit there and say that we're winning. I feel like we almost have to, we say this because we're justifying these things, right? I don't think we should have to be up here today. I don't think we should have to be talking about the amount of lawsuits that we've had to file, because these are things that are going on in the federal government. We shouldn't have to defend funding coming into Oregon for cancer research. I shouldn't have to spend my time, our time, the collective time of the Oregon Department of Justice, all of our departments of justice, fighting to make sure the most neediest in Oregon continue to get their food assistance. That is absurd, what is going on right now. But I'm absolutely proud to have such amazing partners in all of the Democratic attorneys general to stand up for these essential values, values that I know that all of us in this room share. Right now, Oregon is a part of 53 lawsuits we've talked about. It's protecting $4.6 billion that otherwise would have come into this state. We've had to use our state resources to do that. That's our tax dollars that could have been in our classrooms. It could have been providing health care that otherwise we're spending right now. I'm very proud that we're standing up for our rights in all of these various different areas. We as the state, we hadn't been in the Supreme Court for more than 10 years. We haven't had to do that. But this year, the Oregon Department of Justice argued the landmark case on tariffs in front of the United States Supreme Court. And we're now waiting for that. And that effectively, when we're talking about the most vulnerable and needy Oregonians, Americans across the state, when we are continuing to see a wealth gap of the haves and the have-nots that's only growing in this country, that is a regressive tax on all Americans. And earlier today, we sat and we were talking to small businesses where they are talking about we cannot absorb that and we have to pass that on to us as consumers. It has impacted the revenue into the state, again, impacting the dollars that we're able to spend on essential services. So I'm excited to hear from all of you and what you want us to focus on this next year, because the one thing you better believe is that we're not backing down. We are not. There's no way in hell we are going to let this president continue to chip away at our rights, at our democracy at this time, and we're going to continue to fight for this entire term and do our job as attorneys general. And what we need you to do, this is a partnership in all communities. You have a voice, you must exercise it. We as attorneys general, we have incredibly powerful tools, but we need your support, we need your voice, and it's incredibly important. And we also need our partners in Congress as well, and our partners in the state legislature in this. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to pass it off to the amazing Attorney General from California, Rob Bonta. Now, here's what I want you to note, okay? Look at this guy's hair. I want to go on record saying right now that he has better hair than Governor Gavin Newsom. So with that, the amazing Rob Bonta.
Thank you. I think I want to thank him for that introduction. No, very kind. I'm honored to be here. Hi, everybody. Hi, Portland. Good evening. Good to be with you. I, as mentioned, am Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Any former Californians in the house? California roots? Okay, I love it. I love it. Bringing those California values to Oregon. You may, they are shared values that we have as part of the West Coast Blue Wall. All right, that was off to a bad start there. Let me just say I have a lot of affection for California. My younger brother, Marcelo, lives here, and if you see an uglier version of me walking around, that is probably my brother. I say that with love and affection, brotherly love. I call him my ugly twin. But he might be here tonight to show support. But I wanted to be here to join you and to join my fellow attorneys general who have been fighting over the last year. A year and a day ago, Trump took office and launched a lawless campaign to try to reshape America. And just less than a year ago, excuse me, we filed our lawsuit where we put our stake in the ground and said, we will meet you every time you break the law and stop you in court and not allow you to launch the campaign you're trying to launch to hurt our people and hurt our states. And over the last year, we have stood strong, we have stood together. I couldn't be more proud of that. To be on stage with my fellow Democratic Attorneys General who have had locked arms, fought side by side, shoulder to shoulder, had each other's backs time and time again. We believe that when we fight together, we're stronger. When we fight together, we're better. When we fight together, we're able to deliver for you, our bosses, the people who need champions to fight for them, for your rights, for your freedoms. And we've done that time and time again. I couldn't be more proud of that. We have taken the position that we are going to protect and defend the rule of law, our democracy, your rights and your freedoms. We're going to protect funding that's owed to Oregon and to California and all the other states that Congress said we should have, and the president has no say in the matter. And time again, we have gone to court and we have stopped the president from acting unlawfully and hurting our states. In California, that has looked like 54 lawsuits in a year, more than one a week. And to be clear, we don't want to sue the Trump administration at all if we don't have to. We would love a federal government that is our partner, that's working with us in collaboration to solve problems and deliver for the people on the many challenges that we have, from affordability to public safety, access to health care, whatever it is. So the Trump administration, Donald Trump, decides when and if we will sue him. If he breaks the law, we sue. If he doesn't break the law, we don't sue. It's really that simple. So he decided he wanted to get sued more than once a week. And so we obliged and sued him. And we have protected $188 billion of funding for California. We have been victorious. We've prevailed in court over 80% of the time. We have secured 12 final rulings that ended the cases, 35 preliminary injunctions or other forms of emergency relief. Time and time again, we have gone to court with what attorneys are supposed to be armed with, the facts and the law. And we have delivered for the people when you needed it most. That means we've protected food for the hungry, health care for the sick, housing for the homeless, and education for our children. That's who Trump has gone after with these lawsuits. And we believe that society should be judged based on how we treat our most vulnerable, our children, our seniors, our sick, our poor, and that they should be protected. They should be defended. We should stand up for them. Trump thinks that they are a political pawn in his games to provide leverage and to get what he wants and to secure more power. And so we've pushed back, and as we round the corner on a full year of Trump and enter the next, we are full of energy. We got a full tank of gas. We are ready for whatever's next. If we need to bring another lawsuit, we will. We will keep fighting. And so I just want to say thank you for being here. This moment requires folks to have courage, to be engaged, to be enraged about the abuses of power of this administration, and to stand up and speak out. Trump is trying to intimidate people, bully people, silence people. Democracy thrives on the people speaking up and speaking out. And you are doing that. I'm speaking to the choir. You're here. And I want to say thank you for that. But I also want to say courage, the courage that you're showing is contagious. And others, when they see it, will join the fight as well. And also, I just want you to know, don't feel hopeless because you're not helpless. We're not helpless. We have agency. We can change the future. We can make it more fair. We can make it better tomorrow than it is today. But we have to fight. We have to stay engaged. So I know you'll fight. We'll fight beside you. Honored to be with you tonight. And it's my honor to introduce Hawaii AG Lopez.
This sitting down is kind of strange to start out, so I'm just going to stand up and say aloha. Right on. I am really happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. When I think about this group of people, I am astonished every day. Many of the AGs knew each other going into this year of Trump. Some of us didn't know anybody. And yet, we came together prior to January 20th. We started phone calls daily for a while. We reduced that over time, but our staff, our lawyers and our staff have been passionate and committed, and they have continued to talk on the phone 5 days a week for the last 365 days. And this coalition, I have to say, isn't just about 23, now 24 Democratic AGs getting together. I think I speak for all of us when I say we all really like each other. We have fun, right? Everybody checks their ego at the door when we have a phone call. Everybody recognizes that what we're doing is too serious and too important to let our own, our own egos get in our way. One of the beautiful things about this group is that we are literally coast to coast, from Hawaii to Maine. And what makes that great is that we have time zones that allow us to continue working 24 hours a day. So when Hawaii goes to bed, New York is waking up, and Maine is waking up with our work. And so this collaboration has really been inspirational, and I am just thrilled to be a part of it. Hawaii has been a part of 36 cases. And I say that in particular because every time there's a new issue that comes up, every time this administration breaks the law, every time somebody is being prevented from getting the food they need, the aid they need, each of us have to look at our own states to determine whether or not we've been injured. Has something happened in the state of Hawaii that allows me to join a case? And in my mind, that's why these town halls are so incredibly important, because if we don't know what the injuries are, if we don't know what the experiences are, then we're blindfolded. So we need to hear what people have to say about their experiences, about the injuries. The other part of this is that we can't do this alone. From a government perspective, we are doing this alone. We're the only ones in state and federal government fighting every single day against this administration. We would not be successful. I would feel frightened or frustrated if it was just us. But every time individuals, nonprofits, and unions file lawsuits because they have injuries different than ours, then collectively we are making a difference. And I do have hope, and I am excited because we're seeing courts stop Trump and what he is doing. And they're getting more and more clear about it. I know that everybody wants to hear from my colleagues because they've got really, literally life and death things happening in their states. So I do want to say that I am honored to be with each of these guys. I don't want to say younger brothers or little brothers or things like that, but each of these guys, that it is an honor to be with them, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say about what's happening in their states. And Cheryl, thank you for agreeing to moderate this. This is an exciting thing for me to get to meet you. Oh, and now I'll turn it over to my colleague from the great state of Maine.
Good evening, Portland.
The real Portland, sir.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're watching
So-
you.
We can film together. Yeah.
Recognizing that the audience might support that statement, I will not refute it. But let me just say, it is a privilege and an honor to share space with you, to share space with my colleagues and Cheryl, really to take this moment a year into the Trump administration to reflect on just how long of a year it's been, right? And so as you've heard, as you're hearing from us, we are talking about it in terms of the way in which time and time again we've had to remind Donald Trump that even he has to operate under the laws of our country. We will keep doing it. Now, as you've already heard, we don't wake up wanting to do this. While we prepared in advance of what a Trump 2.0 might look like, we had some experience. Some of us served during the first Trump administration. We all saw what was in the tea leaves for what might be a second Trump administration. So we prepared not because we wanted to sue the Trump administration, but because we recognize that as stewards of our office, as the chief legal officers of our state and of the District of Columbia, because the District of Columbia AG is one of our colleagues who is bringing this fight to the Trump administration, we recognize that as our stewardship obligation, the oath that we took as the chief legal officers of our states, of the District of Columbia, is to make sure that our citizens enjoy every single right that the Constitution promises, particularly when it is violated by the President of the United States. And we've been doing that. Sometimes we've been doing it as all 23 of us. Now 24, Jay Jones just got elected in Virginia. He is one of ours now. We would welcome Republican attorneys general to join us on these cases. It's surprising that they haven't, but you know what we have not seen? We also haven't seen them getting involved on the other side, right? They are just sitting off in the corner just letting us do the work, right? Because when we fight for SNAP benefits staying on, when we fight to make sure that children in schools continue to be fed, when we fight to make sure that research dollars go into states, by the way, dollars that go to Republicans, that go to Democrats, that go to unenrolled, that go to those that hate politics altogether, Democratic attorneys general are fighting for that so that Republicans can sit on the sidelines and sort of wait to pop up every now and then and say, Trump, what can we do for you, right? That's right. And it's unfortunate because the law should apply equally to everybody in our country, and we have been reminding people of that time and time again, right? Now, we also share, as you heard earlier, we also share experiences. So it may be that we have cases in common. So Maine in particular has been targeted because of the way in which we recognize the individual of transgender students and the way in which they should have access to sports. But we are not alone in that fight. Minnesota brought it, so we got sued initially. Minnesota brought its own case, and then California got sued. And by the way, other states up here on the stage are probably going to be next. But we are making sure that we are doing everything we can to make it easier for the states that Trump targets later on, because we know that these vulnerable populations are going to be targeted. Immigrants, big law firms, which I never thought would necessarily be a discriminated class, but they are, transgender athletes. And I bring this up because these are all ways in which the Trump administration is trying to normalize this campaign against those that he doesn't like and make people feel comfortable with it, right? Because who's going to care if a big law firm is targeted by Trump? Who's going to care if a transgender female student athlete, a very specific target, by the way, if they don't get their rights recognized? Who's going to care if an immigrant doesn't get recognized, right? These are things that people might not think to stand up about until they're next. Thank you for letting me come and join with you tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and being with my colleagues, because this is work that we enjoy doing, not because we want to, but because we see it as our stewardship role as the chief legal officers of our state and in the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Aaron. Hey, everybody. Keith Ellison from Minnesota. Good to see all of y'all. Thank you. Thank you all very much. My brother. Well, let me just tell you that encouragement, we really can use it right now. Thank you very much. And I just want to say to you that this really is your night. We're here to listen to you. Last year, we did a number of joint attorney general meetings like this in Phoenix, in Minnesota, in Oregon, in Washington, Colorado. We did a number of them all over the country, and we learned something at all of them. We need to have evidence for our cases, And I can't tell you how many times I was shocked to hear somebody's testimony about what they were facing. We heard somebody in Minnesota who worked for the VA and who had been a soldier herself and had been injured from an improvised explosive device in Iraq, get her brain literally scrambled in her head, but still she overcame that traumatic brain injury to still be able to work. And she was serving veterans at the VA and was fired with a Post-it note by her employer under Donald Trump. And this is the first guy to go on and on about how he is for the military, but his actions prove absolutely the opposite. I just want to also tell you this. Boy, your AG is doing one hell of a job. This guy who has pretty good hair himself, not second in any hair contest to anybody, it's fairly new. I guess you're a veteran now, huh, Dan? But he came out of the gate and helped really lead on this tariffs case where we're very hopeful that the Supreme Court will stand up to Trump, because even they, if you were listening to the Supreme Court argument, were poking holes in his bullshit every which way. And I just want to tell you, Dan, thank you on behalf of Minnesota soybean growers, because after this fool did his number on the soybeans and pushed up these tariffs, China hasn't bought a bean and is essentially destroying agricultural economies all over the United States. And if you want to know why your prices are up, just know that there's a whole lot of stuff that we buy from other countries, and yet the people within the United States who import these goods have to pay more. So guess what? So do we. And so, Dan, thank you for the leadership you've shown, and I'm certain he will continue to lead the band in multiple number of ways. I knew you had good judgment when you put Ellen Rosenblum up there, and I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do now. And you have some great senators, wonderful members of Congress, and Oregon, you know how to pick elected leaders. So congratulations to you. I'm going to be quick, but I want you to know at this very minute, at this very hour, Trump has escalated the number of immigration agents, ICE and Border Patrol in the state of Minnesota. He has sent more than 3,500 people to the state of Minnesota to go chase a fairly small number of people who are out of status in terms of their legal right to be in the country and have serious felonies and are dangerous to the public. That's a fairly small number of people. And let me just tell you, if you're going to hurt Minnesotans, we're not going to stand in the way of that. But what has happened is that there are way more people that are needed to carry out that task. So what are these 3,500 doing? They're harassing everybody in our state. They're standing outside of grocery stores demanding to people show their papers. People who are citizens, people who are not citizens but who have legal status. Anybody who speaks accented English. My own wife is from Colombia, and she speaks with accented English. She has taken to carrying her passport wherever she goes. I'm telling you that they have had a man who was Hmong. Y'all know you probably have a Hmong community here in Portland. This Hmong gentleman, so the ICE agents went to his house banging on his door, come out, and this man who's a U.S. citizen was dragged out of his home in 10-degree below weather and had on nothing. Somebody said it. He had on nothing but Crocs and his boxer shorts. And they locked him in that car and interrogated him without any probable cause, all because he was Asian. They beat up a kid who was also a U.S. citizen, 20 years old, who was working at Target. And, friends, they murdered a woman who was monitoring to make sure that she could look out for her most vulnerable neighbors. Her name is Renee Macklin Good, and I want you to never forget her name and to say it all the time. Renee Good was a good person, Renee Good was doing what good citizens should do, which is to care for the least of thee. And that is what she was doing. Now, I'm a prosecutor. I'm not allowed to say who's guilty, who's innocent. It's the rules, friends. You can have your own opinion because you saw the videotape, right? But I'm not allowed to say what I think. But I will tell you this. It is disgusting and a national shame that they won't even investigate her death. At this very moment, the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Department has openly said, we are not investigating her case at all. And about 10 assistant U.S. attorneys have quit because they will not investigate Renee Good's death, but they're investigating Renee Good's wife right now. And then they're trying to deny access to the investigative file to us who are trying to get to the bottom, get to the truth of what happened to this beloved daughter of Minnesota. And so let me just tell you, at this moment in time, we're not afraid, we're not intimidated, we're not backing down, we are fighting on. And, and it's now time for us to listen to you, and we are very interested in what you have to say. But I just want to tell you that between now and next November, we need you to, yes, continue to support our work. Thank you for that. But we need you to continue to protest out there. It is your First Amendment right to object, to peacefully assemble, to seek information from the free press. It is your right. Use that First Amendment. Work it out, because if you don't use it, guess what happens? You lose it. So use your First Amendment rights. Understand now that the time to protect the election in November is not in November. It's right now. And the last word I want to say to you is, Oregon, you are a beacon to the nation. People look at, I'm telling you, you might just think, oh, we're just happy Oregonians, you know. We're just, you know, we like our biking trails and everything. We're just chilling on our strong coffee, you know, we're good. But you are a beacon to the nation. People look at you, your welcoming spirit, your welcoming to the stranger, your public investment, your commitment to electing leaders who really believe in the public interest, and they believe that what you're doing is really an inspiration. And so please continue to be the biggest Oregonian you can be, because just doing that is inspiring all the rest of us. God bless you guys. I can't wait to hear from you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you all. Very inspiring.
McGregor, Minnesota.
What did you say?
McGregor, Minnesota.
McGregor, Minnesota. That is where, indeed, I went to high school, grew up there. So listen, now it is time for us to hear from all of you. And there were so many questions that were received that, of course, there are more than can be answered in the span of the time we have tonight. Many were submitted by those of you in the room and others online. And so we're going to go through them as quickly as we can. And here's what AG Rayfield's staff did, is they took all the questions from those of you in the room, and they went through them and sort of grouped them into subject categories. They wanted to be able to cover a wide range of topics and interests and voices. And so once they did that, they then randomly ordered these questions. So you might notice that there are 4 microphones, one in each sort of aisle on both the upper and lower levels. And I'm going to call 4 names at a time. If I say your name, and you should proceed to the nearest microphone if you're able to. If you're not able to do that, just make noise and wave your hand, and we'll bring you a microphone. And while there's no rush to get to the microphone, but make there in good speed. While you are doing that, there is no band that's going to play like the Oscars or anything. But while you're doing that, I will ask one of the questions that were submitted by somebody online who couldn't be here tonight, and the AGs will begin to answer that question while you get yourself sorted at the microphone. Now, here are the rules. Say your name, state your affiliation if you have one, or if you want to say what your profession is or whatever, what your coffee order is, whatever you want to say. And keep it brief. We have a maximum of 2 minutes for you to make your comments because we do want to get through to as many people as possible. And I've heard that there's some kind of timer. There we go. There's a woman with the clock. Now, when it gets to 2 minutes, which if you can do it in 1 minute, do it. But if it gets to 2 minutes, there will be noise made over there. And after 5 noises, a giant hook will come into the room and you'll be dragged away with that hook. No, we'll just ask you to please wrap up, okay? Because we got to keep it moving. Also, please be respectful as both a listener and a speaker, because we are here in community and we all have different ideas about the same things, right? So let's listen with love in our hearts and compassion in our minds, okay? So, yes, here are the first 4. I feel like I'm on a game show. The Price is Right. Come on down. Alyssa Walker-Keller, Andrea Williams, Dr. Allison Edelman, and Candace Williams. If you're all in the room, go to the nearest microphone. And meanwhile, our first question. This one came to us online by many, many, many people. Oh, hi, everyone. We can see you. This one I thought was so great because I'm going to guess about 90% of the people here have the same question. I know I do. Many of the questions were about meeting this moment when it seems like the federal government has no regard for the Constitution or rule of law, and when federal overreach is rampant in seemingly every aspect of American life. Dan H. summed it up in his 3-letter question, WTF. So folks, WTF. To frame it slightly different, how do you make sense of this moment? 1 year in, what have you learned about standing up to federal overreach, and how are you preparing for what's next?
I'll start. Nobody on this planet thought I would be in this position trying to defend democracy as the Attorney General. I never thought that I would be in this position. And so for me, the WTF is every morning meeting with my staff, talking with my fellow AGs to say, WTF, yesterday or today, and what do we need to do to stop it, to bring an end to it. And I have found that it just means every day we get up to some new terrible headline and then we get together and problem solve and figure out how to go forward.
Thank you. I want to embarrass somebody in this room right now. And I want to do it for a very important reason, which is related to the question. The reason that we're so prepared now is because we know what to expect. Okay, there were lessons learned during the first 4 years of the Trump administration. Then when he says something, take him at his word. So we had a year to prepare. And a lot of that preparation was not necessarily done by me. And the first 4 years of the Trump administration was certainly not done by me. I was in the Oregon legislature at the time. The person who did help immensely is your former Attorney General, Ellen Rosenblum. And you cannot underestimate the lessons that were learned during those first 4 years so that we could be prepared to meet the moment now. And then it's a matter of having attorneys general that are willing to push, willing to do things that are uncomfortable. I never, ever in a million years thought a year into my term, I would sit there and brag about 53 lawsuits filed against the Trump administration. That's absurd, okay? And if you had told me, Dan, you're going to be doing that, I would have said maybe I'm committing malpractice. But the fact is, we're winning these lawsuits, and that should tell you something about what we're doing right now. So it's being willing to take risks. It's being willing to stand up against someone right now that is leading through fear. And when you do stand up to him, people are worried right now. He's caused an entire fear throughout the entire Republican Party. People are unwilling to stand up to him. And that's why it's so important for all of us in this room. It's so important to elect attorneys general that are willing to do this. And then it's so important to have so many people that stood before us that really laid the groundwork for us to be here today.
Thanks, Dan. Let me just say, first of all, whenever you're confronted by a bully like Donald Trump, if you think by keeping your head down and being quiet and being compliant and being sweet and nice that he's not going to stomp all over you, you are wrong. The only solution is to stand up, fight back, and protect your own. Number two, Trump thrives on our division. One of the most important things we can do is promote racial solidarity, gender solidarity, class solidarity. We've got to make bringing people together one of the most important things that we could do, because I'm telling you, he thrives off of saying, hey, look, men, these women, they're getting too uppity. They're making too much money. They're trying to take your jobs. Those of us who were born here versus those of us who came here. They're trying to tell white people that DEI is somehow harmful to them. They're always, and let your imagination fly on how people can be different, and he's trying to agitate that difference. He tells, young people, oh, the old people taking away all the Social Security, you ain't gonna have any, right? If you think of a way that two different people can be distinct, he's trying to make you look suspicious against your neighbor. And so solidarity has got to be our thing. And so I'll stop right there. There's a longer list, but I'll stop right there.
Should we go to the microphone? In the room?
Can
Yes?
I add just to this real quickly? I don't think, you heard from the comments, a lot of us didn't expect to be in this position. Sometimes the moment picks us. We don't pick the moment. And it's important for us to meet the moment, to rise to the occasion, to lead with the courage, the conviction, the commitment that's needed in this moment. And we have taken a very, I believe, uncontroversial position that we're going to protect democracy. We're going to protect our Constitution, the rule of law, the separation of powers, checks and balances, your rights, your freedoms. And if the president crosses a line, violates the law, violates the Constitution, we're going to fight him. Period, full stop, no passes. Every single time. He never gets a pass. And we've done that, and I know there's a lot of concern about the courts. The courts are alive and well. And give it up to the judges on the courts who are under stress, who are being attacked, who are being called so-called judges and activist judges, and their impeachment is being asked for, but who are doing what they do, looking at the facts, looking at the law, calling it like they see it, let the chips fall where they may. Those orders are being followed. I want you to know that. In the cases that we're in, when we secure an order, it's being followed. So we're able to stop the unlawful conduct. And our Constitution, our government is built for this. Our power is dispersed throughout the different parts of our government, whether it be horizontally between the separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial, and also vertically between the states and the federal government. The whole design of the Constitution was for there never to be too much power in one place, so that that power couldn't be abused. And so Congress right now, a Republican-led Congress, is doing nothing. They are supine. They are not a check that is necessary, but we're a check. We're the check when you need the checks and the balances. We're fighting, we're holding them accountable, and we'll continue to do that.
Good evening, esteemed, amazing Attorney General Rayfield and the distinguished other Attorneys General here tonight. I'm really excited to be here. I don't know if you can tell. I read it in the car. I swear it's 2 minutes. My name is Candace Williams. I currently lead For All Families Oregon, formerly Family Forward, and our organization is actually one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit against this administration's attack on Head Start. Because of y'all's modeling, so thank you for modeling. I'm here because our families are currently under attack, not from foreign powers, but from inside our own homes, from our federal government that's turning its back on our children while terrorizing our communities. We recognize the role that state attorneys general have played in holding this administration accountable over the last year, and we thank you very deeply. very deeply. That role is now critically needed to address the deliberate crises being inflicted on our families. This government is creating an environment of fear that poisons the very places our children should feel the safest. First, the very illegal defunding we are suing over, the clawback of critical funds for Head Start and childcare that steals opportunities from our kids before they even set foot in a kindergarten classroom. But the cruelty doesn't stop with cuts. It escalates into outright terror. While they defund these programs that nurture children, they are simultaneously empowering agencies like ICE to operate in and around our child care facilities, our schools, and our churches. Our sanctity is being attacked right now. And that's the brutal reality that your offices are positioned to confront. So our call to you is direct. We need this coalition to take this fight into 2026 and beyond, to specifically continue to investigate and to sue and to restore every single dollar of early childhood funding that has been illegally taken from our communities. And to challenge these ICE directives, I heard the beep, to challenge these ICE directives that target these sensitive locations and hold these collaborators accountable. You guys are a firewall. You stood as a firewall, and that firewall is now needed around our preschools and our childcare facilities and our playgrounds. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We stand with you, and let us know what you need. Thank you.
That was amazing. I think it's just, it leaves us speechless, right?
I'm just going to say what we're all thinking. You better believe we're going to continue this fight all the way through the rest of this presidency. Thank you. Thank you for standing up. We're proud in Oregon to call you a partner in the Attorney General space with us in the legislature and all the amazing work you've done for this state through the past decade.
Fourth generation from Albina.
I love it.
Why don't we go to the left there?
Yeah, hi. Attorneys General Rayfield, Bonta, Lopez, Frey, and Ellison. Thank you. My name is Alyssa Walker-Keller. I'm the coordinator at PIRC, the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition. PIRC is on the front line right now, coordinating rapid response around Oregon. Thank you all. Our brave, mostly volunteer dispatch team is carrying the stories of 20,000 phone calls and 1,100 Oregonians detained in the last 6 months. The depravity, the strategies that ICE is using against our neighbors, this is not law enforcement. These agents are operating lawlessly, and as we all know, without fear of reprisal and using a wide variety of horrifying, illegal tactics. This is not about community safety. Like you said, this is fear being weaponized against U.S. residents and members of our community who have been with us for a long time and are now afraid to go to the schools, grocery stores, and seek medical care that they desperately need. In the face of this risk, PIRC is about people stepping up and standing with their neighbors. And we know that, like us, you're doing the same thing and putting yourselves and your teams in harm's way. And that courage is contagious. And this is the moment we need you to be with us with your collective strength. So we ask, 1, help us prevent, document, elevate, and investigate the ongoing abuses of ICE, because no one, including ICE or Donald Trump, is above the law. And we need your help enforcing that accountability for the orchestrators and perpetrators of this harm. We need you to proactively be attacking these threats, because frankly, Donald Trump's threats against us are escalating, and we need to know that our departments of justice and states will be a force of protection around our rights, like against illegal search and seizure, detention, intimidation, and funding cuts. We need you to maintain regular communication with those who are most impacted. Open a clear line of communication with them, and keep it open to hear from informational interviews for the victims of ICE violence. And 4th, keep standing united together. We will not tolerate this behavior, and we need you to reduce this administration's ability to harm those with less power. Look at this room. Look at this room. Stand with us. Be bold with us. Keep abolishing ICE together, and remember that you are our firewall, and we need you at this moment. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you what you've learned collectively together and standing with us.
respond, or should we move?
And I'd be very interested to hear kind of some of the unique responses that we've been taking in our respective states. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about Oregon and how we've had to rethink about what is our responsibility at the Oregon Department of Justice in this really unique moment in time. And the reason I say what is our responsibility in society, you have a situation that normally wouldn't be investigated or looked into, or there wouldn't be a necessity for the Oregon Department of Justice to do that, right? This was something that you would happen within the Federal Bureau of Investigation, would happen within federal law enforcement when these things, because here's the rule, we all know this, we're citizens of the United States. The Constitution applies to all of us, doesn't matter who you are, right? The laws of Oregon, the laws of the federal government apply to all of us. That's real simple. But we've operated into this space right now where we are watching things go on in community and we're questioning, right? Or sometimes we see things that we absolutely know are unconstitutional or unlawful. And so at this point, in a society, who's going to say no? Who's going to draw the line in the sand? And right now you have a federal government, and Attorney General Ellison talked about this a little bit earlier, is that you have a federal administration making inaccurate statements of the law, right? Saying there's absolute immunity under certain, and that's just not true, right? It's just not true. But that creates a culture where people feel invincible under those circumstances, right? So collectively, what is our responsibility? So these are things that we're, like, frankly, as a society, as a country, as individual states, we're grappling with. So internally, what we've been doing here at the Oregon Department of Justice is trying to meet the moment, think creatively outside the box, and do those things. One thing that was incredibly unusual for us to do is we partnered with the 3 metropolitan DAs and wrote a letter, and we had a cease and desist letter to the federal government. Now, most of you know, okay, they're probably not going to take that cease and desist too kindly, but we also wanted to make a public statement that we, as a community, as the Oregon Department of Justice, locally, are going to monitor and investigate behavior that does not hold to the same standard that all of us are required to be held to. And that's an unusual thing to do at this moment in time. We've opened up tip lines. We've opened up forums on our website. We've created specific websites for all the things that we're doing in community, trying to find different ways to engage. We have a federal oversight and accountability cabinet where we can connect into community to learn better. And so it's wonderful to see a few of you here today because we're able to learn from all of you about how we can better represent you in these moments. So I think all of us are trying to be creative in very different ways about how we can meet that moment.
Absolutely.
Can I just note real quickly, and I'll be quick, that we need everybody to use these things in the videos. They have been remarkably helpful. And we filed a lawsuit in Minnesota. We'll be in court on January 23rd. I want to thank all my colleagues for supporting us to challenge ICE's conduct. But much of the evidence we've been able to generate is because of you. And that's why it's important to keep in mind we will not save our country in a courtroom. We have to fight in a courtroom. We absolutely have to. But ultimately, this country will be saved by the people of the United States. And so that means you're protesting, you're gathering evidence, you're sharing with us, you communicating with us is actually how we're going to win. You showing up tonight, being present tonight, that's how we win. And so I just want to say thank you to the presenters because it is your advocacy on the ground and your communication with us that is allowing us to walk into a courtroom and say, this is happening to our population, this is illegal, and Judge, we need you to make a ruling consistent with the Constitution. And as all of us have said, so far, doing pretty good.
Just a couple quick points on this one. Absolutely critical, I believe, for our offices to work with advocates on the ground who do the work every day, who've built trust with the communities that they fight for and they represent. We did a series of town halls across the state of California about knowing your rights and understanding the problems and challenges. We have an ongoing working group where we're working side by side at tables, co-creating solutions to the problems that we collectively observe. We've also joined lawsuits where courts have ordered ICE to follow the Fourth Amendment, to not engage in racial profiling, in targeting people because of the language that they speak, the job that they seem to be working, or the location that they're in. We've also opened up a portal as well, bringing in the power of the people to share with us what they're seeing in their communities, in their neighborhoods, so that we can take action as appropriate. And we've pushed back on the federal government's notion that We cannot prosecute federal officers if they break the law in our states and hurt our people, that they have absolute immunity, or that they have carte blanche to commit crimes and license to kill and hurt and harm. So we have pushed back in many ways, and I appreciate the beautiful, powerful comments.
Hi there. I just want to add to the thank yous for Attorney General and all of the Attorney Generals that are here tonight. Your collaboration makes our voices much stronger. My name is Allison Edelman. I'm an OBGYN and Division Director of Complex Family Planning at Oregon Health and Science University, Oregon's only academic health center. We play a unique role in caring for medically complex patients, serving as a backstop for our community partners, and in training the future workforce. We consider abortion health care. And I would be remiss in not pointing out that we lost legislation that we used to commemorate tomorrow, January 22nd, which is Roe v. Wade Day. Abortion remains legal and protected in Oregon, but since Dobbs, we've seen a sharp increase in patients forced to travel to our state, people who have exhausted every option in their home state or not offered any options in their home state, and who at great personal sacrifice and out-of-pocket costs come to Oregon. And we're usually off the beaten track for routine health care from somebody from other states. And I'm talking about Florida, Nebraska, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, North Dakota, folks that we don't usually see, not just Idaho. And we are privileged to provide this care and proud to do it, but our ability to do so depends on a strong community from all of you and leadership like yours. The other thing that OHSU is doing is we're training folks from outside of Oregon in abortion care from restrictive states. We do this through philanthropy. This is at no cost to anybody here. These physicians return home better equipped to manage life-threatening situations, and we hear that regularly this training is saving lives and improving quality of care, even in states where abortion is not legal. The threats to abortion are many, and medical training depends on federal Medicaid dollars. Medicaid conditions of participation may not be widely discussed or known about, but they are critical to our ability to provide abortion care and train future clinicians. Even when Medicaid does not pay directly for abortion services, federal Medicaid dollars support the systems and training that make this care possible. In the light of recent HHS actions, how are you all thinking about what states can do and what actions you can take? Thank you.
I'll say something. What HHS is doing is insidious. They're not just taking money away, but they're requiring states to certify that they are complying with federal law. And when they say federal law, they include the president's executive orders, which are not federal law. Dealing with this is something that all of our states have to work on. I think Hawaii, I don't know, I heard something like if we lost all of our HHS funding, it would equal about $2 billion a year. For Hawaii, that is a huge sum of money. So how do we fight back these insidious requirements that they hide in the middle of a contract, that they add to the end of the NOFO? How do we protect our employees who sign off on these grants from False Claims Act litigation? These are all strategies that we are working on together, and unfortunately, because they're relatively disorganized at the federal level, every single contracting grant becomes an individual assessment, and it takes a lot of time. And so one of the biggest things we've done and that I'm happiest with is that all of our departments in the executive branch, they now know they read every single word of every single grant, and they call us before they sign anything. And we work on ways to accept things with reservations, to not just accept these things wholesale. And while it's not sexy, and it's not a big lawsuit, it is the real work that we have to do on the ground to protect those monies coming into our state.
In the wake of the Dobbs decision overruling Roe versus Wade in California, we did a number of different things. We put into law a number of different provisions that make California a safe haven for patients to receive and providers to provide legal, safe abortion. Folks can come to California if they wish to receive a legal, safe abortion. They're protected when in California. We also passed a proposition putting in our state constitution the right to have an abortion. And that is the constitutional law under the state of California's law. We've also saw the federal government withdraw from enforcing EMTALA, the requirement to provide emergency health care. Abortion care is emergency health care. And we have an Emergency Services Act in California that we can enforce, and we've seen some hospitals in California fail to provide abortion as emergency health care, and women's lives and health be put in great jeopardy and at risk, and we've enforced that and gone after the hospitals for failing to comply with the law of the state of California. We saw the defund provision for Planned Parenthood targeted right at Planned Parenthood in the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And the Democratic Attorneys General brought a lawsuit challenging that. It attacked and targeted Planned Parenthood for their freedom of association, for their freedom of speech. It violated other aspects of the law as well. So we brought a lawsuit challenging that provision. And then we've been preparing, as you heard, for before the election, between the election and the inauguration and every day since, for what might come. We've always thought there could be a potential weaponization of the Comstock Act to prevent the mailing of abortion medication to those who need it. Also weaponization and disempowering of the FDA for approval of medication abortion, mifepristone and others. So we're working on a number of issues. We're flagging a number for the future that we're ready for in case they happen. But we deeply believe and know that abortion care is health care, and we're going to fight to protect it.
Can I jump in really quick? I think it's important for everybody to recognize that EMTALA doesn't just cover abortion care, it covers women's reproductive health. And when a woman goes to the ED having a miscarriage or having problems with her pregnancy, they're being turned away because doctors are afraid that they're going to be accused of facilitating an abortion. And that message needs to go to all of the states you listed, particularly Idaho, that is pushing this particular idea. But it is crucial that red state women understand that their lives are in danger because they may not receive reproductive care.
And AG Lopez, I think it's very interesting right now when you go and actually look. The media is not really talking about some of these egregious cases that are going on in very conservative states, and they are appalling when you start digging into it. Specifically, I want to talk about something that AG Bonta, you talked a little bit about, and you kind of alluded to it. We have different roles. So attorneys general have a different set of tools, and you'll see that in the lawsuits we've been, the convening. It can be in a civil space. It can be in these kind of federal cases. But one of the things you talked about are some of the laws that get passed. We have incredible partners in our state legislature that really make this state work. And during my time in the legislature, I was very fortunate to serve with many, many incredible people, two of which are here today. Three, oh my gosh. Let's start with Representative Rob Bonta. Would you stand up? Welcome to his district, he says. Also, you know, Rob will tell you that when the first time he met me, he didn't like me. He'll tell you all, and he'll tell you that all the time. And then, you know what I made him do when I was elected Speaker of the House? I made him talk nice about me, and he nominated me for his Speaker. Hi, Rob. You also have the most amazing Co-Chair Sanchez. And you have Majority Leader Senator Casey Jama. These three and many other people, and really Co-Chair Sanchez, amongst a lot of people, because she's in charge of our budget, so I'm sorry. Don't go talk to her today. She's doing really important work. But really know that they are supporting our work collectively as attorneys general, but then also making sure that we're supporting health care in the state. And in this state, abortion is health care.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Williams, proud Oregonian with Hawaii roots. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also the president of the Oregon Food Bank. Our mission is to eliminate hunger and its root causes because we believe no one should be hungry. And we do this by providing food to Oregonians in every single corner of the state through 1,200 food assistance sites. And I'm here today with a super clear message. Over the past year, the president and this administration has made every aspect of our job to feed people harder. From the biggest cuts in SNAP history through H.R. 1 to cutting actual food going to food banks. I wake up every day wondering, when will the cruelty end? And yet, we are so very grateful for the resolve that this community has shown us here in Oregon and the resolve that you all in your seats at the Attorneys General have been showing us as well. I want to give you an example of one of the most challenging moments we had last year and where your action made a difference for food in people's stomachs. That was the SNAP disruption last year. 1 in 6 Oregonians participates in SNAP. It's a nationwide program. It's been around since 1974 as a nationwide program. And in that 51-year history, never once were benefits withheld from SNAP recipients. That is until November 1st of last year. We heard stories from across the state of people lining up for food at 4 a.m. in anticipation of not receiving SNAP. These are our seniors. These are our families with little kids. It's heartbreaking. And you would think that back at the pandemic, that was kind of the height of hunger. No, we have seen 50% increase in visits to our food sites across Oregon. America is not becoming greater. 50% more people coming to food banks. That is one indicator out of so many that this administration is making us worse off. Now, this is where your action came into play, and I want to thank you for it. You know that out of every meal that a food bank provides, SNAP provides 9. We cannot replace that scale. And I heard the thing, and I'll be really quick. I just want to acknowledge the legal action that you all took to compel the president and the USDA to issue SNAP benefits. Your legal action allowed for a short window of time in which our governor and our Oregon Department of Human Services could turn on people's SNAP benefits so that they would have money in their pockets to go to the grocery store the very next morning, just 1 week after SNAP was paused. So thank you for that. That meant that kids went to school with their bellies full. That meant that the pressure on food banks was relieved. And while I know we can't win every single legal challenge, I'm gonna need you to continue stepping up for our families for the most basic things like getting food. I would be remiss to not say that I am worried about what the USDA is going to do. Oregon is proudly the first sanctuary state in the nation, passing it in 1987, which we defended at the ballot with a majority of voters saying, yes, we want to keep this law for good. I am worried about our state. I'm worried about food. I'm worried about healthcare, all of those things. And so thank you for your continued courage and your partnership. Keep it up.
You mind if I mention? Well, thank you for your wonderful work that you do for Oregonians every single day. All of us can point to people in our states who do this heroic work to make sure that children and seniors and families have the food that they need. And we can't do anything without partnership with you, so bless you and thank you. And I urge any elected official in the room to go to a food shelf, to help, to just be there, serve the meals. Don't just write the briefs. Actually look the people in the eye who are expecting a meal but may not get one. That's how you stay in touch with what you're doing. And so I just want to say, I've asked myself, why would he try to take food away from people? And it's at the very heart of the challenge that we're facing. One reason, and this is probably the simplest reason, is that he cannot fulfill his promise to Elon Musk for the $250 million in the election unless he cuts the budget so he can make tax cuts available for the billionaires. But that's actually the simplest thing. There's actually a philosophical reason. He believes, and this is not a joke, that rich people don't have enough money and everyone else has way too much. And he believes that people who are hungry, starving, are easy to manage, easy to manipulate against each other, easy to turn on each other. And he thinks that if you got people hungry, out of work, and paying too much, it's not that easy to tell them, you know, the real problem is those foreigners who come here to take your jobs. Or, you know, the real problem are those brown people. Or the real problem is, you know, the women. The women are making too much money. A man used to have a real job. He used to be the head of his household. But now, you know, look at the way it is. You know, we've been feminized. Have you heard that before? And this is all crap, lies, to turn us against each other. So understand that making people hungrier is actually part of their strategy for domination and authoritarianism. It is critically important that one of the ways we fight back is we insist on everybody getting a good meal, and every day, all the time, and that we also make sure that we don't let him use our want as a tool to go at each other. So stop right there.
Okay, I'm going to call the next 4 people and then ask another question from the online. Bridget Blackburn, Lana Jack, Justice Raji, Madison Moskowitz. If you're in the room, make your way to the nearest microphone. And here's a question that about 10 people submitted. It's something we really haven't mentioned tonight, but I think it's something a lot of us are curious about. And it's about the upcoming midterm elections, concerns about Trump trying to disrupt or delay the 2026 midterms or interfering with mail-in voting. A retired Multnomah County election manager wrote, during the 2024 election, an incendiary device was detonated outside my former office, where my election coworkers work every day. The FBI appears disinterested in protecting our elections and election workers from these threats. What steps are AGs taking to protect the right to vote and to protect those who administer our elections so we can ensure we have fair and free elections in 2026 and beyond?
If I can just jump in briefly, let me take us back to 2020, where a couple of us on this stage actually had an initial opportunity, I guess we'll call it, to defend the elections, right, in a couple of different ways. One, you remember this was during COVID, and there was a significant effort by Donald Trump to prevent people from being able to cast their votes. Not just Democrats, by the way. There were Republicans, because when you think about seniors, those who are not as able to get out to the polling place because of a disability, the mail-in voting, the ballot box voting, this was all under attack. And it was Democratic attorneys general, along with other Democratic state officials, secretaries of state, that were working hard to make sure that that access, that the franchise of voting continued to be available. We then had to go to court as Democratic attorneys general to support states that were targeted by Trump, by other Republican attorneys general. There were, I think, 5 different states that were sued to block the election, right? It was like Georgia, and not even just Democratic states, which was interesting, right? It was like Georgia, and I can't remember if Minnesota was targeted, but Michigan was, Pennsylvania was, states that had that they didn't like the outcome. The state of Texas came in and sued to try to stop the counting of the vote. So we saw in at least what I would consider to be a more limited way to what I think we're preparing for this time, what might happen. I'm surprised we didn't see this in 2024, probably because the person who won decided that he didn't want to challenge anything, right? Because he won, right? And he didn't need to have a coup this time to sort of like figure out sort of what really happened. We are concerned, though. You heard General Ellison mention this earlier. There's litigation going on right now to protect data that has been collected for voter registrations. I know in the state of Maine, and I think it's like 25 other states, right, currently have the Department of Justice has asked for information that they do not deserve under the law and don't have access to under the law so they can database a bunch of information about those who are signed up to vote. We don't know what they would do with that information that they're not allowed to have after that, right? To what extent might they try to turn that against people who they don't want to show up in the 2026 election, right? And so we are already litigating that in different, I know Maine is involved in some litigation to protect the privacy of those voters who have signed up. But we have talked as Democratic Attorneys General about how it is we are going to make sure that an important constitutional right, by the way, right? I mean, there's another right in the Constitution that we hear all kinds of noise about in the Second Amendment, right? Oh my God, don't interfere with my right to own guns. Voting comes before the Second Amendment, by the way, right? I don't know how they missed it. They had to read to get to the Second Amendment. But voting is just as, if not more important to the foundation of our country. And so we are talking as Democratic Attorneys General, using the experience we had in 2020, thinking about what we were prepared to do to protect the vote in 2024. And by the way, the vote's going to be what the vote's going to be, right? You did not see some sort of like chaos at the Capitol in 2024 because, Democrats are able to accept the election results. And Republicans can be too. We just have to make sure that we don't give a permission to storm the Capitol, right? We need to make sure that we tell people that you will be protected when you show up to vote, and we're going to give you every access that we can so that you can cast your vote on Election Day. We have an experience at defending that, and we're going to continue to do that. And we invite Republicans colleagues to help us with that as well.
Let me tell you, we also need to invite many of you who might have an interest in free, fair elections. Anybody got that as an interest? You might need to go to some other states where election sanctity is a little bit more dubious, right? We need a full court press on election protection now. And it's not going to be all AGs. Much of it will be done by nonprofits, legal nonprofits, a lot of the work that Mark Elias is doing, others out there. Very important, ACLU, other groups out there, and we need you to be doing that work and thinking about it. We know we're probably pretty good in states like Oregon, Minnesota, California, Hawaii, but at the end of the day, some states are going to have some challenges. Georgia, there's different places where we really could win, and it will be razor thin, and we need everybody who believes in democracy to figure out a way to be helpful and to get involved. Let me just say, Trump said recently, when asked, why won't you allow state officials to have access to the investigative file in the Renee Good killing? His answer was, I won the state of Minnesota election 3 times in a row, and those corrupt officials denied me my election, so I'm going to get retribution on them. Now, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's the level of mentality we're dealing with. We're not dealing with regular people. You try to make a logical argument to Trump, you're wasting your time. This guy understands power, and that means we got to be very organized, very active, and operating together across this United States.
Okay, and I'm going to call a couple more people to the microphones just so Ethan Crow and Joel Shapiro, just because it appears like not everyone's here. But let's go over the left.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening, rather. Pardon me. My name is Bridget Blackburn. I am a co-owner of a local business called Cargo. We are, thank you. We are in our 30th year in business here in Portland. And we built our business on direct importing. Some of you may know that we used to bring in containers. We'd bring them right to our warehouse space. We'd open up the containers and bring them in. We did that by building relationships with people all over the world and worked really hard to maintain those relationships. And those relationships have been greatly challenged, first by COVID and now by tariffs. So I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about tariffs. We were fortunate enough to have a tour today of the Central East Side and see some businesses with AG Rayfield. Thank you so much for arranging that. Really appreciate your team. We saw a chocolate manufacturer, we saw a wine importer, we saw a 75-year-old business that does party supplies, almost primarily from China, Littman Company, you may know. And we also talked to the travel bookstore within Cargo, which is a postcard bookshop. We have pivoted our business greatly, in part because of COVID, into a small emporium model where many small businesses have come together. But we have never felt the challenges that we felt this year, and that has to do with the tariffs 100%. We had a container on the ocean from India that we landed just at the beginning of COVID, but have never been able to put another container on the ocean. And now tariffs from India are at 50%. These are challenging those relationships that we've had. Those relationships are with small independent vendors in all of these different countries also. So when we think about the small business ecoculture, it's international, but it's also like the brick and mortars in our towns that keep our storefronts vibrant, that keep our communities vibrant. So when we are thinking about the impact of tariffs and this crazy atmosphere that has come out and what we have to do to pivot and try to, like right now, 10% on anything from the EU, should I get that paper supply line that I've been working on or not? I need to also bring this back to the consumer. This is not really just a business problem or an importer's problem. It is a consumer confidence problem, and it is also going to be passed through to the consumer. So from the AG perspective, not only is it your responsibility to fight this unjust tariff that is in fact illegal, but I think it is also incumbent on you to think about the consumer protections that should be in place, because that's where it falls down, and that's who's really suffering in the long run. Thank you so much for your time and your support. Appreciate it.
And thank you for taking us around earlier today. It was incredibly impactful. And I want to share two stories I think that we learned today. One of them was from a wine importer importing wine into, frankly, nearby downtown Portland. One of the things they learned about the vulnerability of that market right now is once you order a product and it gets on the ocean and tariffs hit, and you've made assumptions, business assumptions about what that's going to look like, those tariffs can change. And you may not actually be able to afford that when it gets here, because it's a little bit of a fallacy, right, that that foreign person is paying the tariffs. That's not what happens. We on this side start writing the checks. In fact, if any of you buy something, overseas right now, you might actually see this. And this will come in, and you will actually have to write your own personal check to FedEx, to UPS for the additional cost. Now, interesting thing, also talked about today, not only are you paying for the tariff, UPS and FedEx are now charging additional tariff maintenance fees for the additional staffing. So it's an interesting hit. Now, some of those things don't even have tariffs. We learned about this today. There's confusion about the law. One of the local bookstores actually imported a bunch of products from Mexico that thought were protected under one of our trade agreements. And they erroneously increased, 60 days later, they erroneously increased the price of the tariffs, and now they're in a litigation battle, trying to remove those. One of the other stories that we heard was candles. They came, the most gorgeous candles, by the way. You have to go to Cargo. Amazing store. Sold all of these. By the time they were out of stock, then all of a sudden the tariff bill hits. How do you run a business like that? Right? This is so much chaos and unpredictability when we desperately need to be supporting our small businesses here in Oregon. And to that end, I did something earlier. Keith, will you show him the hat? Put it on. I want you to know, I bought every single AG one of these Frog Brigade hats. Now, truth be told, our communications staff said we couldn't wear them on stage. We all felt that was a mistake. We thought it would have been a really good moment, but Keith defied our professional communications staff and brought it out anyways. So, a tremendous amount of respect to AG Ellison. And thank you for taking the time with us earlier today. Thank you. And also go to Cargo and buy these hats.
Can I just reflect something? So I want to recognize Dan Rayfield. I want to recognize Rob Bonta. these are two leaders in our Democratic Attorneys General community that when the tariffs started to come online and we were trying to figure out what our place would be, it's these two leaders that figured out how to get there, brought us along, and gave us that opportunity through the law to hold accountable the Trump administration for using a power that doesn't belong to the chief executive. And so you're looking at two of the leaders right here that we were happy to join and support after, but they plowed that path, which has not only been a benefit to us and our offices to be able to jump on and be a support for that and bring that case, but it's also been tremendous for consumers and for businesses because Dan Rayfield was in the Supreme Court with his team fighting this, right? One of the first cases filed was Rob Bonta in California, making sure that this was almost immediately challenged. So, we are doing everything we can, and we benefit from leadership in our group so that we can bring those cases.
Maybe, I think, as we pull the curtain down and you kind of see what it's like to be in these shoes, I think that's a really interesting point. AG Bonta and myself were on a phone call talking about tariffs together and about like the respective states and the way that we were going to approach this. There's a partnership there. There's a partnership when we're all experiencing different events. National Guard didn't start in Oregon first, did it? Right? This normalization of the military, that started in California. We're now seeing that. The ICE issues that are going on, that is percolating across different states. What starts one place starts another. To have these partnerships, to be able to pick up the phone is incredibly important for us to be responsive in these moments. And then the other thing that I would say is like, you'll hear us talk about like, and we'll always say AG Bonta is so amazing. Truth is he's not, never has been. His staff are incredible, okay? And that's what I really want to illustrate. We love it. We're elected officials. We love the sound of our own voice. That's why we're here, right? Like, clap for us. Bring it on. But here, the truth of the matter is, you have the most incredible, dedicated public servants, from staff to attorneys, in every single one of our offices that make these things go. Specifically, the one thing that we can relate to here in Portland, the National Guard lawsuit. And what did that look like? Thank you. Well, and that is the clap for the staff that did the work. And here's what that looked like, okay? Friday night, we start getting word about these things. You have a weekend. People have weekend plans. They have families. Things are going on. You have an AG like myself that's very annoying, right? And I said, I want to be in court in less than 12 hours. Because we wanted to stop the National Guard from hitting our streets before it happened. Now, that's great, Dan, you can say that, but people have to do the work, right? And that's, and like I would love to sit there and say that I was drafting these briefs, but I was not, okay? And that's incredible staff that have to file these things, work these things, countless hours over the weekend to get that done so we could be in court on Monday, so that we could get that ruling that week, so that National Guard would never hit the streets. Then you have to prepare for a trial in some of the most shortest time frames. And you have people that were working nights, weekends, constantly. Again, staff, Oregonians that are serving you at the Oregon Department of Justice. So I just want to really make sure that we really put out that there is stress among our staff and our individuals that are doing this work, and you should be incredibly proud to be a part of a state and to have a bunch of states that people are dedicated to really enforcing the rule of law and the values that we all share.
Hi, my name is Ethan Crow. I'm from the ACLU of Oregon. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also joined by our Executive Director, Sandy Chung, and our board member, Bonnie Reagan, who are here tonight. The ACLU of Oregon is dedicated to defending and advancing democracy, civil liberties, and civil rights with more than 50,000 members and donor supporters statewide. We know that Oregonians cherish the Constitution, our democracy, and our freedom. First off, welcome to our state. Thank you so much for the amazing work you do. Here in Oregon, we're, of course, very familiar with the amazing work that AG Rayfield does, but we appreciate all of you for defending civil liberties across the country. Your work together shows us that, as a country, we're determined to leave no one out of our nation's promise of freedom and equality under the law, even though Trump is showing the exact opposite. We've had the privilege at many of AG Rayfield's events across the state to talk about the amazing work that the ACLU of Oregon's had the honor to do, along with our coalition partners. But with this unique opportunity of having all of you here, we consulted with our colleagues at ACLU affiliates across the country and wanted to share some suggestions from them to build on your amazing successes. As ICE's behavior across the country grows more and more lawless and frightening, please advocate for state-level accountability measures, such as creating new state laws allowing your state's residents to bring civil actions against law enforcement, including federal agents who violate civil liberties. Please consider creating or strengthening, for those states that already have, state-level civil or human rights offices by establishing mechanisms to document violations, collect evidence, and release reports on harms to residents of the state in the course of federal deployments. We want to put a special thank you to AG Ellison of Minnesota, who recently launched a reporting form, and AG Rayfield's amazing team, who's created similar mechanisms for reporting violations of our state sanctuary laws. We at the ACLU of Oregon want to applaud our colleagues in California for working with AG Bonta to pass state laws and defend them in the courts, to tackle the crisis of unidentified masked individuals acting as law enforcement without transparency or accountability. And finally, we recognize each state has its own unique legal landscape. So please continue thinking innovatively about how you can build local firewalls between your states and these harmful federal actions. Thanks so much for your time.
I would just like to say in Hawaii, prior to this, I hate the way it sounds, but more often than not, the ACLU is suing the state. And so our relationship hasn't always been one of collaboration. But that's what Trump has done. He has brought people together who might not otherwise be there. But I also think it's indicative of a larger picture. We always talk about whether, the Democrats have this like big tent, right? Well, we might have a big tent, but I really believe that we have had room dividers up all over that tent. So we all live in our own little cubbyhole. And what is happening, and then what I think you've also seen, because we've had the same experience with immigrant advocates in Hawaii, is suddenly we're learning to trust each other. We're learning to have real conversations about how we can collaborate. And it's not easy to trust when I feel confident the ACLU might sue me again. But we're getting past those things, and we're really trying to tackle these issues. So I do appreciate what the ACLU and the work that you're doing, and I appreciate the folks in Hawaii who are willing to work with us collaboratively as well.
Okay, last question here.
Hi, I'm Joel Shapiro. I'm the Executive Director of the Trafficking Law Center. I've had the privilege to work very closely with AG Rosenblum in building the anti-trafficking efforts for DOJ here in Oregon. And I've certainly had an opportunity to talk to AG Rayfield about the victims that I represent. No, I'm not here to talk about the Epstein files. There are some other horrible things that President Trump is doing, and I'm wearing a blue ribbon today because January is National Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month, seems like everybody cares about victims of trafficking and crime victims in general. That would seem like a pretty non-controversial issue, and yet we've seen that the Trump administration has done rescissions of grants that support victims of trafficking, support victims of domestic violence, sexual assault. And I know that all of you have public safety and fusion centers and opportunities to connect with the federal government. And I just hope that you will use that platform to encourage the Department of Justice to maintain the funding that supports victim services. When that money gets yanked away at a moment's notice, it is devastating for community organizations that support crime victims, and that funding is really vital to the victims that we support. Thank you.
Anyone want to respond to that at all?
I'll just say you're absolutely right. We have had to go to court to fight for money for crime victims, and it's incredible that a president who goes on about law and order is cutting money for crime victims. It's incredible that a president who is literally killing people in the Caribbean over drugs is pardoning somebody who's moving 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. We're in this incredible moment. We're right here with you, but I'll just tell you this. I can understand why you don't want to turn this into the Epstein Files conversation, but I do want to tell you that if you're catering to the billionaires of the world who are also working out real estate deals, crypto deals, sometimes they're so arrogant that they think they can trade in young girls as well. And so it's not completely unrelated, and I want to encourage people not to be shy about connecting these things. This is a moment in which we should connect the dots between this and that. Not just for an electoral advantage, but because it's true. And we all need to be confronting the truth at this moment. And I'll just say this, and this applies to everything everyone has said. Friends, yes, in November we do have an election coming up. And I am going to politicize this. And I'm going to tell you that cutting money for violence against women, cutting for money for crime victims is something that your Republican AGs would not fight to protect. So if you're thinking about, that person, that Republican running in that state seems nice, that is completely irrelevant. There's one question. Are they going to fight for the people of their state or are they not? I am embarrassed for them that we can't get them to stand with us on anything, literally nothing. And so not even on crime victim funding. So think about that when you talk to your cousin in Idaho or Utah or the Dakotas or Montana or any of these states. Why won't you stand with crime victims and let them err out? They don't have community meetings, by the way. Did you know that? Because, anyway, I'll stop right there.
Okay.
In a moment, I thought there's a really bright story here on this. And the one thing, is you had AGs that stood up for crime victims funding. And what happened shortly after that? We told a story. We got in court. We started telling the story. We all were talking about it. And what happened? The federal government caved. And they walked back. And that's happening. And that's why some of these fights are incredibly important to happen. But there's a lot of good that comes of these things. So just remember that. And sometimes where it's, some of these stories are incredibly frustrating to listen to. But in a lot of these stories, some things that aren't being told is when the federal government just waves the white flag and says, hey, you know what? We got to get that money flowing again. So the fights are worth it, right? Because we're doing and actually achieving results.
The fights are worth it. Those are some good words as we come in toward the end of our evening. We've just got about 14 minutes left. And I do want to ask a couple more questions of the AGs that we got online, but I invite you each to answer these questions as you also deliver some final words for all of us. And I want to say also to all of you who came here tonight, thank you. Thank you. It's a really powerful thing to show up. I just feel really honored to be a citizen of Portland and Oregon and a member of this community. So it feels really great. And I want to also thank the visiting AGs for traveling all the way here to sunny Portland. Now, and lastly, AG Rayfield does have an incredible team, I know, because I've worked with them as we plan for this. And we know that this conversation continues beyond tonight. There are cards with AG Rayfield's contact information and such out in the lobby, I believe. And, you can contact him any old time, right? And share your thoughts and concerns and questions. So, by way of closure, I'm going to ask you each to give us some final words, but I want to read a couple of questions that I think are really powerful ones for all of us to hear and reflect upon. The first one is from Chris E. Simple but really important. What gives you hope? The other one is, what can we do? Okay, about 15 people asked some variation on this question. What can we do to help as parents, teachers, attorneys, concerned citizens, healthcare workers, childcare workers? Marilyn added, and what actions on our part are not helpful, which is also an interesting one. What are some of the most useful and effective ways that you've seen people step up in this moment? And what would you say to someone who's trying to figure out how to make a difference? So we're going to start with AG Lopez.
Thank you very much. It has been an honor to be here, and I love the opportunity to hear from different people. I will say that question, what can we do, is the most frequently asked question that I get wherever I go. And I'm sure my team is watching and are sick of me at this point. But I really believe that if we don't lift each other up every single day, we're not going to win this fight. We're going to lose hope. And when I think about what that means to lift each other up, not everybody can go out onto the street and protest. Not everybody can donate time at the food bank. But some people may be able to just help out a single mom by babysitting for a few hours so she has a little bit of respite time to pull herself together. Some people may not be able to read to their children at night because they're so fucking tired of working 2 jobs. So maybe we need to go to kindergarten and read to children because we know they have to be at reading level by 3rd grade. We know these things. We know that social media and AI is destroying the mental health of teenagers in this country. We have to help them by engaging them in activity that isn't just looking at their phone. There are so many things that I believe the Democratic Party has lost sight of over the last few decades, and that is, how do we lift each other up to make our community stronger and better? And every single one of us can do something every single day that lifts somebody in our community. And I think we just have to think about, what can each of us do? What is our time like? Maybe we don't have time, but we've got lots of money, and you can donate it. But maybe you don't have lots of money, but you got some time, so you can donate it. And so I really believe that that is the most important thing, is that we lift each other every single day.
So a couple of fragments that I hope are responsive and also in conclusion. First, I want to start with something that's completely off to the side, but I hope helps contribute to this feeling of hope. Our offices continue to do all of the work that we were regularly doing anyway, right? When it comes to consumer protection and antitrust, taking on those who are trying to suck out our data or trying to harm our teenagers because of their social media targeting. We continue to do that work. We have longer days, we have late nights, we have work on the weekends, but we continue to do the work that you need and want us doing to protect our communities, even though we have to take on the additional responsibility of reminding President Trump that even he has to operate under the rule of law. And so we do that with these tremendous staffs. And you heard this already, but I want to take this opportunity to recognize that I have some really talented attorneys. They don't make what they probably should make. They are batting way above what you see some of the other non-government attorneys doing, at least in Maine. But I am so proud of this apolitical, nonpartisan, but very talented team who day in and day out is making sure that in my state, our citizens are getting some of the best legal representation. And when I look at the work product that they're engaged in, when I get the memo that tells me I'm wrong about how I think things should go because the law drives us in a different direction, I am given hope because I know that they are there working day in and day out for the people of my state and are contributing with the same types of people in all of the offices that you see represented here and across our country. In addition to a couple other things. One, we can't do this alone. And we hear tonight from, the ACLU, from PERC, I think it was, from, hospitals that are serving people who have to come to this state in order to get the care that they need. A Head Start, making sure that they're showing up to the challenge there. We depend, frankly, our success is commensurate or concurrent with the success we're seeing from those who are bringing cases, standing up and being the voice in our communities that we can't be by ourselves or that we need to help elevate. And so I want to thank all of those nonprofits and unions and individuals, frankly, just individuals who are making it a part of their day in and day out work to make sure that those who are being targeted, those who maybe don't have the resources but need somebody to speak up for them, those who are afraid that if they come to an event like this, they're going to be profiled and somebody might come after them, please recognize there are so many people out there doing that work to make sure that those voices are uplifted. And then just finally, elections have consequences, right? We've all heard that before. We've kind of talked about that today. But when you vote for your state, for your U.S. senator, when you vote for, governor, think about what's behind those votes, right? It's a Supreme Court confirmation vote, right? It is those who get appointed or confirmed. We have Robert Kennedy because we didn't have enough U.S. senators to keep this monster from getting into office, right? And destroying our public health infrastructure. So please remember that when you go to the ballot, there is more than just that one name on that line. It is all of the other decisions and votes that they take that end up making sure that our community is taken care of. So please show up, right? Because if you stay home on Election Day, look in the mirror if you're concerned about why it is that we have what we might end up having. I don't think that's going to be a problem, by the way. But please, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for inviting me and letting me be a part of this panel here in Oregon. And please know that I continue to be energized, not only by my team, not only by supportive Mainers in my state, but also by all of you who are coming out day in and day out to make sure that we're not only being supported, but reminding us of the job that we have to hold the line, while we get through this. Thank you all.
So everything my colleagues said, but let me ask you, are there any people who are mental health professionals here tonight? You don't have to be a PhD or a psychiatrist, but even like school counselors, people in the clergy, anybody who does that, we need you guys to take 5 minutes after this meeting and go in the corner and figure out how to help people get rid of some of the anxiety that Trump is deliberately trying to inflict upon them. Our mental health professionals, there's a lot you can do right now because we all know what one-on-one therapy is, and we even know what group therapy is. But what about when somebody is trying to freak out a whole society and is deliberately trying to do it? They call it flood the zone. So what can our mental health professionals do to help soothe, calm, so that we can use this instrument known as the brain most effectively to protect ourselves? Because they know that if we're too busy, if we're completely anxiety-ridden, we cannot push back. So would some of y'all just sort of create like a national network to come up with some, I'm not asking you to practice medicine on people you don't know. I'm asking you to just think of what could be done if a group of committed mental health professionals said, how can we help society calm down and be effective and have hope and things like that? Is that something anybody would be interested in doing? Now, another one. Anybody in here who is an artist, and anybody's a potter, a singer, a poet, I don't care what kind of art you do, any artist in the room. Now, let me tell you, this moment, friends, needs an aesthetic. And what I mean is, if I started singing, Mother, Mother, you would know, oh, that's like the 60s. That's Marvin Gaye. That's, you know what I mean? And if I said, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, you'd say, oh, that's the Black civil rights movement in the South, right? every great movement needs an aesthetic, friends. Well, and what is the, and I'm not here to, I'm gonna let you decide what the aesthetic is, okay? Frogs. But we need the poetry of now. We need the songs of now. We need the rap music of now. We need the symphonic orchestra of now. We need a powerful aesthetic that can do something that no politician can do, and that is inspire people through symbolism, and these things are critically important. We need gallery showings, we need speak outs, poetry readings. These are very important. And so we need you all to do that. You're doing it, right? But let's do more of it, right? We need more of it. There's this kid named Jesse Wells. Who heard of this guy? This little guy was singing at Farm Aid in Minnesota, and he was making people laugh. He was making them cry, and he was giving people just with his guitar and his songs, right? And so, artists, this is your moment. This is your moment. Photographer, this is your moment. And you see some of the pictures of in the 1960s, and of Vietnam, and all these things are inspiring. So I'll just stop right here and just say, look, what inspires me? Straight up, you do. I was standing outside something called the Whipple Building, which is the federal ICE building in Minnesota, and I was in -3 weather, and I saw these people who had, some of them never been to a protest in their lives, but they were out there freezing their asses off for the sake of their neighbor's freedom. Now, if that doesn't get you, if that doesn't set your heart on fire, you got some things we got to talk about. The bottom line is the courage, the commitment of all of us is inspiring, and we've got to work on inspiring each other, and we've got to understand that the animating feature of this moment is love for each other in our country, and we are not going to let this guy tear it down.
Thank you. General Bonta.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be with you here tonight. Thank you to all of the speakers who asked the questions. The questions were inspiring. Your stories were inspiring, so I want to say thank you. It's wonderful to be here. What gives me hope? People who fight give me hope. People who stand up, who speak up, who speak out, who speak truth to power give me hope. And so that means you give me hope. You're here. You could be anywhere tonight. You could be home with your family. You could be out with your coworkers. You could be doing something else. You decided of all the places you could be, you want to be here. Because what is happening in this moment is not acceptable. It's not okay, and someone needs to do something about it, and you're going to do something about it. So thank you. You give me hope. My fellow Democratic Attorneys General give me hope. And the most potent power that there is in a democracy gives me hope, and that's people power. You have it. We have it. There are a lot of chapters still to be written in the story of this country. And you're going to write it. We're going to write it. You, me, us, we, together. We have a say in our future. We can refuse to accept the unacceptable. We can refuse to never normalize what's so abnormal. We can chart a better tomorrow than today. But we have to fight. We have to be engaged. We have to be active. And democracies thrive on participation, on engagement, on activism. They die in the dark with apathy and neglect. So you have to be engaged. And there's a lot of things every one person can do. There is no shortage. You can join a protest. You can start a protest. You can volunteer at any nonprofit or organization that's advocating that you heard from tonight. Go volunteer at the food bank, Planned Parenthood, an immigration advocacy organization. You can support the electeds that fight for you, that inspire you, that represent you. You can run for office yourself and become one of those electeds. Or you can tell your story, especially if you're a victim of the unlawful actions of this Trump administration. Speak up about it. Speak up about the injustice. You can speak truth. We need more truth tellers and truth seekers in this world. Speak out against misinformation and disinformation. Every one of you has a role to play. And so in this moment, so many of us have asked ourselves to rise to the occasion to meet this moment. I've asked that of myself. One of the other questions I get is, what keeps you up at night? The things that keep me up at night are not where I stand on any of the things we discussed tonight. I know where I am. I know how I'm going to fight. I know who I stand for and what values I fight for. The thing that keeps me up at night is me asking the following question to myself: am I doing enough for the people that need me to fight for them? What more can I do? Who else can I help? How else can I fight? And I will respectfully ask that you ask that of yourself. You're already doing so much, and I thank you for it. But everybody can do a little bit more, and I will respectfully submit that this moment requires a little bit more. Dig a little deeper, fight a little harder, find that strength that you don't think you have, but it's there. If you reach for it, you can access it. So I'll just leave you with this. The 3 C's are super important right now. The 3 C's: courts, crowds, and courage. Courts, crowds, and courage. The courts are where we like to play. It's not play, it's serious, but we go to court to hold an unlawful president accountable each and every time he hurts our people, no passes, and we will continue to deliver for you and do the best that we can in our courts. The courts are alive and well. The orders are holding. We can make a difference and stop the unlawfulness. Crowds are super important. That is the rawest, most powerful expression of our democracy when the people show up, whether it's hands off or no kings. Show up and show out. When people do that here and then there and then in the city next door and then the state next door and across the country, we are speaking about what we will never accept and what we demand for our future. So crowds are super important, and courage, so important right now because this president wants to beat you into submission and silence you and intimidate you and bully you and make you think, maybe some of you thought this, what are the consequences of me coming here tonight? You shouldn't have to think about that, but that's what this president wants. So courage is not being afraid. It's being afraid but doing it anyway. So stay courageous, stay strong. We'll be as courageous and strong for you as we can. If we fight together, we'll win. If we fight with the law on our side, we'll win. And if we stand up for each other, we can't be stopped. Thank you.
So these are some busy people, and they don't live nearby. And so I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your days to be here. And it's a privilege to serve with all of you. And so the question was, what gives us hope on this world? And there's so many things for me. One of the things is exactly what AG Ellison has in his lap right there. And that seems silly, right? But that, to me, is symbolic of who we are as Oregon, right? It was an incredible moment for this state. When we had Oregonians line dancing outside of an ice facility, only Oregon does that stuff. You don't see that in California, Hawaii, Maine, or Minnesota. Hell no. This is what we stand for. We exercise our rights. We go out there and we peacefully protest and we talk about the things and we talk about what we want our state to look like, what we want our nation to look like. That's why I'm proud to be in this state. That's why it was important to me when I was in Cargo, again, plug to Cargo, go there, that I bought those hats for these AGs because this is the moment in time that we all share right now. That gives me hope. It gives me hope when I see a Supreme Court Chief Justice push back against the President of the United States. That's important. We cannot underestimate that. When you have the president who is attacking freedom of the press, trying to use the FCC to shut up Jimmy Kimmel, you know what gave me hope? And I thought I would never say this in a million years. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz sat there and said, hey, Mr. President, I think we're going a little bit too far. He said that, right? It's little things like that to give me hope. When I'm at my house and I'm with my 14-year-old son who exercises unconditional kindness, not all the time, he's going through puberty, but his kind heart in the future of our state and what he, and how we raise our children and what we can do in this state, that gives me hope. And then I want to tell you one, and there's so many of these things, right? It's the public service. I talked about this. You have people doing some of the most incredibly difficult jobs serving us, whether it's in our long-term care facilities or whether it's, serving children, whether it's in the Department of Justice. These people go to work and working on behalf of all of us. And it's incredibly humbling to be a part of their work that they do here in our state. And so you just know that that is incredible, and we take that for granted sometimes, but these states don't run without those amazing people. And what I would kind of point out, the last thing, and I'm going to embarrass one last person, and the reason I'm going to do it is because this is the 1-year anniversary for us filing our first lawsuit. But there was another very important anniversary that occurs today. And it was and I think this is very symbolic of the things as we're giving and shifting what we're doing in this moment in time. Does anybody know Jenny Hansen? I'm going to embarrass her right now. Jenny Hansen, TV star, personality. She's bringing life to incredibly important issues in our community on the news. The election happens in 2024. We got some Jenny Hansen fans here. It's okay. Jenny Hansen says, you know what? I need to do something more. I want to be a part, and we need to be pushing back, and I need to exercise my skills, my talents in a different place. She leaves after an entire career in the news media and applies to come work at the Oregon Department of Justice as our communications. It is her 1-year anniversary today at the Oregon Department of Justice, and she deserves an incredible amount of thanks for her service. There are countless people doing the same things right now. And just know we're eternally grateful for all the people that are doing that. Now, the funny thing about this is when she came in, I told her, Jenny, you're going to be horribly bored. You must have been incredibly busy in the TV news. And she reminds me every single day that she's busier now than she ever was. And I think she resents my statements. So finally, just thank you to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, part of the community. Thank you for using your voice when you have it. So thank you very much for being here and sharing the stage and helping us through a wonderful evening.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you all. And one last round of applause for these Democratic AGs.